Good morning. I figured today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm just going to kind of run you through what a typical day here on our farmstead is. Today we have the main goal of getting the animals hayed, and the goats need water. So those are our main priorities for the day. But first, everybody has to get fed because it is time for morning chores. For morning chores, we kind of like to divide and conquer. Jesse will usually take care of the rabbits as well as all of the bucks, while I am fighting with all of our does and feeding gravy. And then we kind of meet back together when it's time to feed the cows and head out to let the chickens out. I find that when it is time to give all of the girls a fresh bale of hay, the easiest time for me to do that is right at feeding time. This way they are distracted and I'm not fighting them to get into the hayloft and get the bale out to the feeder. They're actually out there fighting with each other and distracting each other so I can get this done. Now, we don't milk any of our cows in the morning. We just find it easier for us to just milk in the evening, especially with kidding season right around the corner. We will be milking all of our goats in the morning, so we like to keep all of our cow milking set to the evening. That way, when we do start milking both, we're not spending all day milking every animal. After our morning chores are done, that's usually when we go inside and eat breakfast and clean up for the morning and decide what we're going to do. Like I mentioned, today his priority is getting a round bale of hay to the jerseys as well as getting water for all of the goats. We opt to use a round bale feeder for our cows, and we move it every time we give them a fresh round bale. We find that if we move the round bale feeder, they can kind of finish out what they couldn't reach, and then a couple hours later we'll come back and give them a fresh round bale. That way we try to eliminate as much hay waste as possible. On the days that we give the girls round bales, we lock them over into another paddock. That way they aren't underneath us when we're trying to move the hay bales and underneath us when I'm trying to unwrap the hay bale. If you're new here and you didn't know, we actually collect all of our water for our goats and when we have pigs from the creek. We have well water here, and I find that having the well water, it generally has higher levels of iron in it, which isn't the greatest for our goats. So we opt to go to our creek, which is a spring-fed creek, and collect water there. Now I do have a whole video dedicated to how we collect our water for the animals as well as why we do it. But just to sum it up, we have this big IBC tote that Jesse put on a trailer, and we use a little Harbor Freight trash pump to pump the water in, and that way we can fill the IBC tote up and then go and fill all the water is up. Now, it may seem a little excessive to go and collect the water from the creek when we have a perfectly good well on our property, but for us, I prefer it this way just because when we do fill all the waters up, we go through a lot of water, and this way we're not putting any extra stress on our well pump, since we really don't know too much about it as far as how deep the well is or how long it's been there. So we rather err on the side of caution. Usually by the time we're done with whatever project we have planned for that day, it's right around the time to start feeding all the animals again. So once we were done with the water, it was time to start all over again and feeding all of the goats and the cows and the chickens and the rabbits. Because it is evening chores, our youngest has joined us. He usually takes care of all the chicken duties by collecting the eggs and hunting for them wherever they may be. And then because it is the evening, we are milking. We milk our 2 Jersey cows right now. We are waiting for our Dexter cow, Carla, to actually give birth, and she is actually a great milker as well. So once she gives birth, we'll start milking her and putting her into the rotation as well. Once we've finished with feeding all the animals and milking the cows, it's time for us to head back into the shop where we'll process the milk. We don't pasteurize our milk. We don't skim the cream off of our milk when we store it. We just basically pour it from the milker and we filter it through into gallon jars, and then we store it into our milk fridge, where that's all we store in there is milk, and it's set very cold. And I even put some frozen 2-liter water bottles in between just to make sure that we chill that milk as quick as possible. Once everything is put away and the milker is cleaned, it's time to head inside for dinner and start planning for the next day.